Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. All right, let's bring in my buddy John Middlekauff, former NFL scout. His podcasts, the football one is 3 and Out. And we're not ready to go every week quite yet, but when we start humming, get out of the way, folks. We're like a fullback from the 60s. We're just going to run your ass over.
We got July to take a deep breath, Colin, and then August, buckle down.
Yep. So I was reading a story today, and I thought of you. And I know Steve Keim really well.
Yeah.
They got out and smoked a few cigars and had dinner with Steve Keim, the former Arizona Cardinal GM, who after 25 years working for Michael Bidwell, he doesn't want to do it again. He's like burnt
that'll
out
take
still.
hair off your head.
And if people only knew the stories, fans have no idea. But so I was thinking about this. Bruce Arians was commenting about Kyler Murray, and he was saying, he's still in the evaluation process. And I've always backed him because my takeaway is that Jesus, in a division that had Pete Carroll, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, he had Cliff Kingsbury and took him to the playoffs. It's like, and mostly pretty mediocre old lines. And I'm like, are you guys, this is the best coaching division in football at the top with Pete and Shanny and McVay, and Kyle got him in there. Kyler did. But as I was reading that with Bruce Arians, he had real doubts on him. I mean, real doubts that, he's more legs than pocket. And he completes 67% of his throws. And I can't find anybody I ever ask about Kyler Murray in the league is like, no way, out. And I'm like, Jesus, he throws a beautiful ball. He's elusive as hell. He's a playmaker. He's accurate. People stuck with Justin Fields to the last game against Green Bay. People have bailed on Kyler, and he can frickin' play the position. And I have this theory. So I have a therapist friend, a lady. And she has said there's a little bit, it's not an epidemic, but it is an issue with men who are gamers are bad for marriages. And this person has said she has seen it repeatedly. People think, guys get into porn and it ruins a marriage. She's like, no, gaming, gamers. She said it's
well, now
addictive.
It's now
guys
it's
get on there
because you can communicate with the people you're playing with.
And and I will be honest. When I hear a guy's a gamer and he's older, he's out of his teen years or he's past like 2021, I tend to be like, oh, it's time to grow up. I mean, come on. And most guys get married, have kids, even if they love that stuff, they get out of it, they move on. But a lot don't, and it's like an issue. Therapists are seeing this, and they've been seeing it for years. Like it's blowing up marriages, like guys that just can't stop. It's not like getting a book, John, and going and reading it for 30 minutes. Or
well, you can play continuous for 10, 12 hours, no problem.
And so I think the stigma, he's accurate. He's a playmaker. He got a poorly owned franchise to the playoffs in a tough division. I think the gaming thing is a huge stigma. And I think older GMs look at it and think, Jesus, grow the F up. Like this guy, this guy's addicted to gaming.
I think the gaming thing represents something that a lot of people had question marks. How hard was he willing to work? And how much did football mean to him? Because there were some question marks early on in his career. And the NFL is a lot like high school. There aren't that many people there, and everyone knows everybody, and word travels fast. Because there is no disputing. Remember one of the last games of the season, he played the Eagles? I mean, he single-handedly was running around kicking their ass. He is...
Yes.
Bryce Young, also a small player, can't hold a candle talent-wise to that.
Not a candle.
Daniel Jones, same thing. I mean, this guy's a legitimate top 10 talent at the position in the NFL. That some people would say it's a no-go with his height, but he's kind of overcome it at moments. And like you said, he's had a really good year before.
Quarterback people say he's the best Texas high school football player ever. He wins the Heisman. He gets Arizona to the playoffs. The fans don't like him. The media doesn't like him. Execs don't like him. His owner doesn't like him. Like I've never seen a player this talented. Nobody's saying be patient. People have bailed on him.
I always support, I mean, I might criticize, but support young guys. Like I'm so much different of a human than I was 5 years ago, let alone at 22 years old.
Yeah.
So guys, not everyone is Peyton Manning and Tom Brady at 23 years old. Like Kyler is much closer, especially to people at the other position. But at quarterback, there's no margin for error. And I would say this, I haven't played video games since college, but maybe he just needs a girlfriend. Maybe he has one, but I'm with you. Other positions, though, I would imagine a lot of people under 30 in pro sports are playing video games.
Doesn't bother
Mahomes
me.
spending much time on the video games during the season? Probably not. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. That's the other thing. How much does this guy like to work? Even Jalen, right, had a bumpy year last year. No one ever questions his love of football and how hard he's willing to work. Now, is he going to be good enough? Next couple of years, we'll find out. But no one, and I think that's the big question mark with Kyler. And these GMs and personnel people, that's like, I'm out. I'm out because I can't risk it. I can't bet on you that you will figure it out before it's too late.
Yeah, I guess my take on Kyler is he is the most talented quarterback in my life that has no support group. I've never, people have, Jordan Love didn't play for 3 years, was terrible in September in his fourth year, and everybody was yelling, give him time. The
difference, though, is Jordan Love, not a highly recruited guy, goes to Utah State. I've been there, beautiful place, but it's not the first choice for many quarterbacks. Sits for 3.5 years, right? A lot of guys, Patrick Mahomes, he has to go to Texas Tech. Josh Allen couldn't get a scholarship offer. This guy didn't lose a freaking game in high school. Like you said, a 5'9" player in the history of that state is widely considered the best player. Then goes to Texas A&M, and at the time, they were recruiting with Kevin Sumlin, just like Alabama or Georgia. Doesn't work out there. Goes immediately to Lincoln Riley, kicks everyone's ass, and then goes to Arizona, who just drafted a quarterback. They're like, get the hell out of here. We're going with this. And then 3 years in, they gave him a max contract. It has a little NBA feel to it. And a lot of NBA guys never snipped their potential because they were given everything, and Arizona did. It never made sense to me to pay him without like, hey, Kyler, let's just see another year, and it backfired. I do think the guys, like I know a lot of Philly guys that know Jonathan Gannon really well. They have a young staff. I think both of his coordinators are under 35. They do like him because they're coming in fresh, and he's been good. So people change, but you have to spend so much time as a quarterback. The difference, you hear all these stories about these coaches working 20 hours, and it's true. Quarterbacks aren't far behind. The wide receiver, not even close, right? The DB doesn't have to spend that time. The quarterback is working their hours. This ain't banker hours. You're not checking in the union 9 to 5 here. These are long. You're working for Steve Cohen on Wall Street, up all night. These guys are up at 5 a.m. and they're not going to bed, turning he doesn't even have kids or anything yet. So this is a big year for him, but he's under contract. He got paid. Like he won, Colin. He won financially. Now proving whether he can hang. It's a tough division. We know Seattle's going to be tough. And the Niners and Rams, are those two 12-win teams?
Yeah, it's it really it jumps out to me.
I enjoy watching him. Like I don't want to watch Daniel Jones. Right? Derek doesn't do much for me anymore in New Orleans. Like, it's just boring.
Yeah.
Kyler is an entertaining watch. I'll give him that.
Oh, no question. Yeah. The it's funny about I got into this conversation about quarterbacks that the last 12 years, only 2 quarterbacks have won Super Bowls. Stars, Peyton, Brady, Mahomes, or guys who are talented but yet to be paid. Russell Wilson and Flacco were on the last year of their first year contract. And then the Wentz, Nick Foles team, where those guys weren't making any money. So essentially, like that's it. You Tua, Dak, good quarterbacks, big money, no chance. And so I looked at all the teams. I came up with 12 quarterbacks who were either I considered like throw the ball elite fashion, and it was Stafford and Mahomes and Allen. I put Aaron Rodgers on there. I put Lamar Jackson because I think he's elite, and Joe Burrow. Those are the 6. So they're in the Super Bowl bubble. And then there were 6 other guys who I consider really, really talented and inexpensive, all under $20 million a cap hit. Herbert, I think it was Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. I'm missing somebody else, but it was that
Goff
group.
In there.
That's interesting. So Goff was the one quarterback on the one team I didn't. He is not great, and he's too damn expensive. So over the last 12 years, there are no Jared Goffs. There are no A minus B plus quarterbacks, and with no history. I mean, Peyton Manning was older in Denver, but his brain was functioning. It's Peyton Manning. He could still play. There are no Goff winners. And it was interesting because I came away and I said, I actually like this bubble. It was, Ravens, Bengals. It was all the teams we like. Texans, I think we both agree, and Packers are young, but you wouldn't be shocked if they end up at a conference championship. And Detroit was my takeaway. And I also love Dan Campbell's ability to build a culture. I don't know if you get him in a game with a Shanahan or an Andy Reid if I feel so great about highly emotional Dan Campbell. So here's a franchise I love, a quarterback I've been higher on Goff, you and I have, I think, than almost anybody in the media. Love their roster. It's a younger version of the Niners. But there are no examples of Jared Goff winning a Super Bowl, that kind of pay and quarterback. And would it shock you if I said in 5 years they didn't win a Super Bowl?
Well, they're the Lions, but I do think they have a unique window because of the trade they made with Stafford and how well they drafted. Their team, roster-wise, feels more like a Ravens, right? They went toe-to-toe with the Niners, and they didn't have to lose any of those guys to sign this contract. Now, when the bill comes due and his number starts hitting whatever on a yearly basis, 20% of the cap, it's a little different. But right now, on a man-to-man basis, I would say they easily have a top 5 roster because the other thing they have, I was talking to our guy, Jeff Schwartz, who Oregon Duck. He's like, do you realize that Penei Sewell is like 23, 24 years old? The players, their young talent, that Jahmyr Gibbs, the wide receiver, meets running back. Like he's a Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara. We saw Laporta, Amon St. Brown. They do have a question mark at defensive back. If you have question marks at defensive back in 2024, it can be a problem. But they did add in the draft. They added Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay. So if they're just solid, the other thing, Colin, is a lot of times when you're a team that sucks and then a couple years later has success, people steal your coaches. For whatever reason, Ben Johnson doesn't want to be a head coach. I mean, he's turning down Josh Harris as they're flying to see him. It's a unique situation with him. So yeah, Dan is not Mr. Schematic, right? He's not calling the plays, but he didn't lose his star coordinator. And now their defense, just personnel wise, like I think they got a real chance this year. They got a real chance because there's a ton of pressure in San Francisco. We'll have to see how this Aiyuk thing plays out. Jordan Love's got to do it for 17 games, right? So you look around Philly, we still got question marks with Sirianni. Now the roster's good, but I think the line, it's this year. Now over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, it gets more difficult if you're not the 4th best quarterback, if you're closer to 11 and you're making huge money. But I do think you've seen if you can protect the guy, he's mentally tough. He's like a better version. He's a different type player, but a lot like Alex Smith, but I think better. And
throws a better ball.
Mentally tough. Yeah. And that matters in these playoff games. Alex is just so physically limited when Andy would get him to the playoffs. Jared has more physical capability. He can't run like that, but he can throw. And if you can protect him, the NFC, I mean, they should have won that game. And like you said, I thought it was pretty reckless by Dan Campbell with kicking the field goals. Yeah. But I think this year they got a legit chance. If you tell me the Lions, is it inconceivable they're the number 1 seed? Their division's hard, but I mean, why couldn't they win? I don't know if San Francisco is going to win 13-14 again. Maybe they win 11 because them and the Rams both 11. What if the Lions get to 12 or 13 and have the 1 seed and then they get to everything's in a dome?
Get ready for a great night of fights. UFC 303. It can be even bigger if you sign up. It doesn't take long, to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Make it simple. Go to DraftKings, select a fighter, place your first bet. DraftKings, new customers, all you have to do is bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Okay, so you just download the app now. It takes 90 seconds. Do it on your phone. It takes 90 seconds. Put in the code Colin. That would be me, COLIN. And there you go. $5, you get $150. That's a pretty sweet deal. DraftKings, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Have a great summer. I would argue the 2 best rosters in the NFL are San Francisco and Detroit. the best teams are almost all in the AFC. It's like when USC dominated the Pac-12, the conference was just awful, but USC was the best program. And basically, they got every California recruit they wanted. I think the Niners, I said this before last year, if you took the Niners and the Lions and just, we're going to make a Pro Bowl team out of these two teams, it could compete with, I mean, literally the offensive line. Trent Williams one side, Panay Sewell the other. You literally, yeah, they would hurt people. So, it's, I had Tom Brady on this week. Yeah, Tommy was good. He was good. And he's really, I found people like Tom because everybody wants a piece of Tom. Like when you get to that big. And I know somebody that knows, President Barack Obama, former president, pretty well. And it's the same trait. They both have the same trait, is that, everybody wants a picture. Everybody wants to say, hi, I remember this game.
Is he the most famous NFL player ever? By a wide margin, you think, at this point in time?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Tom is really very, very normal. And it's really interesting how efficient he is in social situations. Like he meets you, it's eye to eye. He responds, very cordial, very human, very personable. And then, he's escorted, didn't come with a big entourage, but it was really interesting to watch him. Tom is a highly functional, very normal, really incredibly thoughtful guy. And as I sat there for the interview, he has a personality trait that I've always admired in people. Anything you ask Tom about football, anything. I was throwing these goofy theories I have. Oh, he's thought about it. And I've said this before in my life. A couple of the people that are involved with the volume, and one of the reasons I was always impressed with people that I included in this company is when you ask somebody about, media, and they have an answer. Because I'm obsessed by not just sports, but by the business of sports. And so I think about stuff all the time that I don't talk about, but I just think about it. And it was really impressive to me that Brady, I'm throwing zany theories at him, and Tom's he's thought of everything. And I think he'll be a very good broadcaster. Like a player, I think he'll just get better and better and better and better because he's very hard on himself. Did you take anything away from the interview? That was kind of my take, that Tom's just literally thought of everything.
Well, it's about 120 degrees here. So I was in the pool a couple hours ago. And you have a lot of time in the pool. You're just kind of thinking. I was thinking about the most famous athletes, I would say, the last 25 years. You obviously, Michael would probably be number one. Tiger would be right up there. Yeah. And I think both those, even what LeBron is now, they do struggle when they're just in a situation like that to feel relatable. I mean, Michael never has. Tiger's gotten a little better, I think, with his child. He can be a little calmer. LeBron is just in his own little world just because that's the way it's been for 20 plus years. I would put Peyton in this category too. Both those two guys can be in a situation like that, and you go, I'd like to have a beer with that guy. And
that's how I felt.
You would never say that about Michael Jackson or Leonardo DiCaprio. Like the level of fame, and Tom's higher than Peyton, but is it crazy? And I've always said that Tom and Peyton were the Magic and Larry of my generation, what they meant for the NFL. And Tom's just a very, very unique person. It's just to sit like that. I looked at some of the YouTube comments because I watched the interview on YouTube, and everyone was like, how likable is this guy? And I think it gets back to the sport, how, one, he went to whatever the highest level of education is in America. He went to the equivalent in New England for 20 years with Bill. I mean, should any of us be shocked that all those former Patriots, when you hear them talk football, can do it at a really high level? From Matt Light to Edelman to even Gronk when he's not screwing around. I mean, they've just been inundated with this, but they were all held in the same level. And there's a humility because you didn't have a choice. And most of their teams were not super stacked. The teams that were didn't win the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, their core, Julian Edelman was their best wide receiver. Like, Julian Edelman, I love the guy, but he's never going to Canton or anything. And I just think Tom, it gets back to his family, how he was grown up. This is what people are looking for. Obviously, his success you're not looking for that when you draft a player, but his love of football, how good he is with other people, how much he cares. Like these traits that he displays, and Peyton does this too, is like everything you look for when you draft a player. I mean, he's the highest level. He's like the Mensa, whatever it becomes. But I just find him very easy to listen to. And let's face it, most people that are like Michael Jordan is not like that, right? Because usually, how could Tom relate to anybody? But he is able to do that. He transitioned to Tampa, and it was like everyone loved him. It was like the practice squad guys, like he's taking pictures with my kid. The star players are like, he's the coolest guy we've ever been around. It's just a trait that not many people have. I think Mahomes clearly has that. They have that going in Kansas City right now, where everyone, obviously some people make more money, some people have more fame. Travis Kelce has it. I know he does. I mean, the way that they view him, and it's just
think about Mahomes' life. He's got a brother that makes the news. He's got a wife
who wants to be a star.
He's got he's got young kids. He's the best football player on the planet. He's the face of a franchise. He's got 38 endorsements, and he is just in a good mood. I mean, you watch him on that Netflix thing. He is able to compartmentalize shit like I've never seen in my life. Some people, John, just have it. Mahomes has got wackiness and neediness and maintenance around him. None of it bothers him.
You know, the other thing is, college football, once you get to like Ohio State this year, over under in their regular season, how many tight games they're going to be in? When you put it at probably like 2, like they're going to be so much better. Or Georgia, they might be in 2 or 3 big games. In the NFL, and Tom has been saying this for 25 years, and every player does, you better come correct every single week. Like, I don't get to just mail it in. Obviously, with that franchise, how hard Bill was on everybody, but you will get beat by a 4-win team beats a couple playoff teams, right? So when Tom was talking about how serious he prepared, he never knew. He never take an opponent lightly. He never took a series off. Like, you got to be careful. And the preparation that you were ready for in the first quarter might not show till late in the game, and all of a sudden you're tied against a 4-win team. And it might be on Monday Night Football. It might be their Super Bowl. And I think that's what the NFL has that the other sports don't. Like, I'm playing the Lakers in February, win or lose, whatever. Who cares? And in fairness, they got 82 games, or baseball. Every baseball game tonight, we're recording this on Thursday. Do any of them matter? Do any of them actually matter, today's games? They just don't.
No.
But every Sunday it does, because it could be the difference of winning your division, not making a wild card. I mean, it's getting fired, keeping your job.
Well, think about this. Think about the parity in the NFL. There's about 10 awful teams in baseball, 10 awful teams in the NBA. Take out New England. It's a bad football team. And I imagine the Giants are not going to be pretty. Carolina, I do think, will be much improved, and their schedule, boy, it's got some potential wins there. You got about 2 teams that I think feel kind of hopeless. I think the Raiders are talented. I just don't know rookie coach Gardner Minshew. So let's say 3 teams that it could be pretty scrappy. But I mean, if Minnesota is a 4th place team, I think they have one of the best young coaches, one of the best left tackles, the best wide receiver, a top back, a top tight end, edge rushers better than you think. That's a 4th place team. A 4th, 5th place team in baseball or the NBA, like Detroit, is not even shit. They can't score. Nobody can shoot. They have no shooters.
I think the thing you forget about Minnesota, they added an edge rusher. They also drafted one. Remember, they had 2 first-round picks, JJ and the kid from Alabama. So yeah, I just think anytime, and you've been around football your whole life, it's unlike any of these other sports. And to do it over a long period of time, you've just been humbled so many times, even if you're Tom. I mean, Tom's had some of the most historic losses in league history, right? Lost to the Giants twice. I mean, those are he had an undefeated team in the Super Bowl. So for all his 28-3, they did not lose a game. And a lot of those were not close. And then Eli got him again. And then the Eagles with Nick freaking Foles beat him when he threw for 500 yards. So, yeah, I just think he's a unique character, and the communication, which clearly resonates and comes through when he sits down with you. I just think it's cool. Obviously got a lot of money, but he's got a lot of money already. It's pretty cool that he wants to do this. I just think that we don't get very often, like, is LeBron ever calling a game on one of these networks one day? No chance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Right.
and is Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. So I think it's going to be a very, very cool experience. And like everything, and it comes through when he's talking to you, he takes this shit very seriously because he takes everything very seriously.
Yeah. I was bouncing around. I wanted to ask you a Niners question because you're so tied into them. You used to live there and did radio in the Bay Area. That I was thinking about Brandon Aiyuk, and I like Brandon Aiyuk a lot. I think he's a top 5-6 receiver talent in the league. But it's really interesting because I always say this: a lot of what you make in life, how valuable, forget your talent and productivity, how valuable you are to a company, that's your leverage. You can be talented. Companies, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman,
yeah,
fantastic. And Fox at some point made a decision. And so talent alone is not getting you paid. It's your value. There's a lot of great tight ends who have never made great money. There's a lot of great running backs. Saquon Barkley's a stud, and there's not a huge market for that. But if I look at the Niners, here's my knock on Brandon Aiyuk. The most important person with the Niners is the brain of Kyle Shanahan, then the legs of Christian McCaffrey, the pass rush of Bosa, I would say the versatility of Debo, and then the protection of Trent Williams. I also think Kittle is a culture setter, his physical style of play. So I'm at like 6 people, and they drafted 2 receivers. I don't think, and Purdy's not a big deep ball thrower, nor do really good teams allow a lot of deep balls when you.
They're just not throwing go routes like most teams.
Yeah. How valuable is he?
I think it's they're in a tough spot. Let's use this example. Let's say you're Kyle Shanahan, and someone wrote an article that at the volume, John Middlekauff is making more money than Shannon Sharp. You might have a problem on your hands, right? Shannon might be on the horn with you and Logan. Well, Trent Williams makes $20 million a year. He is widely considered one of the most talented left tackles in the history of the sport, and he's dominating right now.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey got a raise, but it was $20 million. Fred Warner doesn't make anywhere close to $20 million. Brandon Aiyuk's a really good player. He's scheduled to make almost $15 million. But they're offering him 25, 26. He's like, no, I'm 31. Well, you make 31 in that locker room. What, you're double the value of Fred Warner? If you're Trent Williams, like, we're all human beings. Like, I understand the market. I play left tackle, and this guy's making $9 million more than me. You got potential problems. I think it's a tough spot. Obviously, in a perfect world, I think what you would do now with the emergence of Christian McCaffrey last year and a half, you would just get rid of Debo. But deals contracts have already been signed. So you're kind of stuck right now.
Yeah.
And his value on the open market, given that he's so Kyle Shanahan dependent. Brandon Aiyuk's a really good player. Yeah. He's a winning player. I would struggle given the way they play, given the way they're built. They also have some big picture question marks. We just saw Trevor Lawrence. He got $200 million guaranteed. Brock Purdy has been objectively better. And I know Doug, I talked to him at the Combine. Doug loved Trevor. So Doug was pushing that. Kyle likes Purdy more than Doug likes Trevor Lawrence, and Doug likes Trevor Lawrence a lot. Kyle's in love with Brock Purdy here. So that number is going to be huge. Trent Williams you're going to have to figure out this left tackle thing. They do not come cheap, whether you trade for a guy, whether you mortgage a lot in the draft. I think they're just in a weird spot right now. They have a lot of really good players under contract making a lot of money. And then they got this situation. A couple years ago, he was in the doghouse, and he's proven he's a winning player. But the way they play, he's never catching 95 balls. You get
never.
You get paid for production. There's a reason, guys, whether you're a winning player or a losing player, you score 30 points in the NBA, you're getting a max contract, right? St. Brown is catching 120 balls a year. Like, give me my $80 million. I mean, it's part of the deal.
Yeah.
So he catches 75. Now, he has a lot of yards, and he's a really, really good player. Is he ever a top 7 wide receiver in the NFL? So, because they pay premiums for Trent Williams, best left tackle, Fred Warner, best linebacker, Kittle, second or first tight end, McCaffrey, best running back. So it's like they are comfortable doing that. Debo, they were in a tough spot, and I think they kind of got pushed against the wall. He had just carried them with Jimmy Garoppolo being terrible to the NFC Championship.
And I do think his versatility is
100%.
unique.
But then 6 months later, they got to trade for Christian McCaffrey. If they would have known McCaffrey was coming, they probably just would have unloaded him that offseason. But it hadn't happened yet. I don't know. I could see a scenario where they play this out, which they're not going to want to do because the drama that comes with that. I could definitely see a trade, and I could definitely just see, because sometimes a coach just get it done. Let's over quote unquote pay. But then you have to worry about the locker room dynamics. And I think the 49ers, one thing they've really had, and Kyle does a great job of this. He's been around his whole life with his dad. It's a lot like New England. Everyone's pretty tight. Everyone's rowing in the same way. They don't do a lot of BS. And when it comes, it just doesn't, they get rid of it fast. So this is a weird spot because he's now vlogging his off season. Kyle Shanahan might be young, but he's an old soul. He's not really into all that crap. And it's probably a headache to him right now.
Yeah, I think so too. So I want you to pick a team that is considered a bad team. And I've done this every year. A couple years ago, I beat on this drum, I swear, for 6 months. The Minnesota Vikings, I'm like, this is a 10, 11, 12 win team, and they were. Like they were undervalued.
They were headed to the playoffs last year until Cousins ripped his Achilles.
Yeah. So I think I'm in the minority here. I want you to think, I'll go first, of a team you think is undervalued. I think it's Denver. So they drafted an edge rusher. That is an area of need. If you go back to last year, the defense was the issue. They got the most you could get. If you go really look at Russell Wilson's stats. Now, Russell doesn't see the field particularly well, but they've got a number one receiver in Cortland Sutton. The offensive line was rated 7th. I like their backs, capable at tight end. Again, a number one receiver. I think the O-line's better than people think. One of the smartest play designers and callers in the sport. The Raiders are not going to be great. The Chargers will probably take a while to get where they want to get. They're not going to be terribly explosive vertically. The Chargers can beat teams, but they're a little bit like Kansas City last year. They're not blowing people out.
He's going to try to play in 20-17 type games.
Every week. They're going to be in games with Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't blow people out anymore. Rashee Rice is a bit of a mess. They have a rookie. Chargers won't blow people out. They could absolutely beat both of those teams once. They could beat the Raiders twice. Their over-under's 5.5. If the kid they drafted, if the edge rusher works, by the way, Mims last year became a really nice piece. That's why they moved off Jerry Jeudy. They went and got another receiver. It's hard when you say smart coach, good offensive line, automatic wins in division. Bo Nix had 61 starts. If he's capable, if he's Russell Wilson capable, I think they're like an 8-win team. I'm not saying playoffs, but 5, Jesus, John, 5-12 is Carolina. It's unwatchable. I don't think Denver's going to be unwatchable.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix, I remember watching him right after the draft. He kind of had some like Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr coming out of college. And when those guys were young, they would have been perfect for Sean Payton when he was transitioning away from Drew Brees. This team, win-loss wise, they've been in the mix, but no one really took them that seriously. Seattle's offensive personnel is pretty awesome. I mean, DK Metcalf's like Terrell Owens. Jackson Smith.
Oh, their backs and receivers
Walker,
are great.
They've improved the offensive line. Their defense, for a team that's drafted defense, that's traded for defense, has been anemic these last 2 years, which is crazy because you remove the last 3-year stretch. Pete Carroll's easily one of the best defensive minds over the last 30-plus years, right? But it fell apart at the end. Geno Smith, I'm not the biggest believer, but he has not really been their issue of just being competitive. It's their defense. They couldn't stop a soul. Well, they get the boy genius from Baltimore, who easily had the best defense in the league last year. Listen, Stafford's already kind of bitching and moaning. I need a little more money. And Stafford was awesome last year, but that elbow goes. We've seen what happens if he's on the shelf. It's one thing if he misses one game. It's another thing if he misses a month and a half. He's the linchpin of the whole operation. If something were to happen to Stafford, I could see Seattle being right there, because you can already tell, are the Rams, do we really want to double down on this? It was an awesome season. Can we just play out the contract? To me, Seattle's a quarterback away in the next couple of years. I'm sure Schneider's going to be all over them in the draft this year. I think that they are a very unique spot, equipped in the future. If they could ever find, just even get their Brock Purdy, or just a guy that's really good, cheap contract, they would be a problem, because what Mike McDonald did these last 2 years, and specifically last year, he embarrassed Kyle Shanahan on Christmas night. I had a buddy on the Baltimore Ravens staff. They were all calling him boy genius around the room. Like, he is a special defensive schematic guy. And we question that side of the ball running a team, but he does inherit players everywhere on offense. And we'll see. I mean, Ryan Grubb, a lot of success coaching. Now, going to the NFL is a little bit different, but what he just did in Washington, a lot of NFL people are watching. I'm not shocked that John, and they hired him to be the offensive coordinator. So they're a team I would say this year is going to be interesting, but they're a Bo Nix, whoever their guy is, over the next couple of years, away from being like, they could be a problem.
All right, let's flip it. Let's find a team that we think is a bit overvalued. I want to pull back on Houston so badly, but Jesus, I just love everything they're doing. Every move they make, every draft pick, I love what Houston's doing.
They got a good coach, and what their quarterback does is sustainable. He's a pocket quarterback.
So, I think about this. I really do wonder if Aaron Rodgers is upright. The Miami Dolphins concern me. Basically, it's a three-headed team. It's Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Tua. Tua was healthy last year, one of the only healthy years of his life. The Jets, if Aaron's upright, are going to be much better. New England's bad. Those are 2 wins. Buffalo's Buffalo. Their schedule's not easy. The AFC, here comes Burrow. Deshaun Watson's coming back. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Shit, man, last year was the year the getting was good if you're an AFC team. Like, it was everybody's banged up. Trevor Lawrence wasn't healthy. Anthony Richardson got hurt. CJ Stroud's a baby.
Didn't the Dolphins have like a 4-game lead after Thanksgiving? I mean, how the hell did they blow that division?
And I look at Miami and I'm like, I could just see this thing with a little injury to Tua early. I could see it nosediving. I think Miami's the team that I think to myself, God, last year they're literally weather affected when they go north and later in the season. Miami's the team that everybody's high on. I could see it being a bit of a mess.
I don't take them seriously at all. I don't care what their record is in September. Go 4-0 in September. Seen that, been there, done that. The best teams in their conference all play in freezing cold weather. Not like cold weather, frigid weather, right? So they have no shot. I think the Colts are a team that I'm high on. Their coach is a stud. Your guy Ballard has done a really good job. I think their roster is really good. They were a bad Gardner Minshew swing route from beating the Houston Texans and winning the division.
Yep.
But their quarterback has played. He's much more physically gifted and much more talented. But a little Trey Lancey, he just hasn't played much football over several years now. So you're very dependent on this guy. It's like, well, if he's awesome, well, yeah, I mean, I haven't really seen him on the field. And then last year, it's one thing to get hit by Ray Lewis, right, or John Lynch in their prime and get a broken shoulder or whatever. He had some injuries where you're like, I didn't even think that hit was that violent. And the thing about football is some guys are just durable. This guy never missed a game in 15 years.
Eli.
Yeah. Look at Jerry Rice's career, 16 for 16. So it just goes on forever. The occasional you break a leg or whatever, but like you start having concussions, shoulder issues, that concerns me. I'm probably going to pick them to make the playoffs, but I can't feel good. I mean, their quarterback has played a combined, I don't know how many games he played last year, 3 or 4. And then before coming out of college, he had played 13 career games. That's the thing with this class, right? Penix has been playing for 6 years. Bo Nix, 61 career starts. Caleb Williams started every game after Oklahoma told Spencer Rattler to go, to the Pine. J.J. McCarthy, like you've seen these guys be on the field for a long time. People get very, like you said with Kyler Murray, lazy, not into it, terrifies teams. Half the league's just out. The injury stuff is tough because you're like, well, what if just a weird couple year stretch and then he plays 7 straight years? Or what if it's just something that snowballs? You really don't know. You're just completely taking an educated guess. half the times the doctors tell you we can't draft this guy. This guy goes on to have an 8-year career, and the doctor tells you to draft this guy. He's got a degenerate knee. So it's tough. But that is going to concern me picking them. But if I pick the Bengals, isn't Joe Burrow's wrist injury that I don't know if you read about it. It's not like a broken leg or an ACL that's basically feels like 100% recovery. It's a much smaller percentage. Not arthritis, but pain and just the throbbing as you're working back from it is unavoidable. He's a quarterback, so he kind of needs to use it. I love watching the guy play, and he's the only guy in the AFC that went toe-to-toe with Mahomes and took him down on the road.
Yeah.
But like that injury has a little baseball feel to it where you're like, that pitcher was never the same, right? I hope that's not the case, but it's scary.
All right, I got to ask you a golf question. Go Low is John's podcast. John is, first of all, not only a great golf analyst, a good golf bettor, but I'm a huge Rory McIlroy fan, and I was really pulling for him. I think Bryson DeChambeau has done a really good job to pivot, and he's become incredibly likable. And especially when Rory peeled out and left early, I guarantee you DeChambeau heard that and decided, I'm staying here for 3 hours signing every autograph. DeChambeau's personality is, Rory split and didn't talk to anybody? I'm going to be here all night. So these guys are all competitive. They're all alphas. It's interesting. So in defense of Rory, golf is so strange. I think it's the USGA. They put a tournament right before a major and right after a major in the summer sun. Like, it's just, that's not like these guys. So he skips out on the Hartford, and I'm thinking to myself, after a major, the intensity in the summer of a major, these guys are worn out. Fans, I don't think understand sometimes. Maybe they do. A golf major in the summer, that shit, you're losing weight. I mean, it is, you'll lose 8 pounds over the course of 4 days. It is a grind in that heat. So I kind of understood saying, guys, I need rest. But I also, in a weird way, he is the face of the PGA. Better
he's really
or worse,
the face of all.
He's kind
golf.
of
I would include Liv. I mean, he's the most famous golfer right now that's not named Tiger or Phil.
I didn't love him bailing without a congratulations. The Hartford I get, missing the Hartford I get. I think that's some of the structural bizarreness of golf, and some of their scheduling is weird. But in the golf community, how was that viewed? Him just basically, I'm out of here, peeling off.
I think the unique thing about golf is when the 49ers right guard blows it against Chris Jones and the Niners lose the Super Bowl, no one can relate to that. No one could block him. No one could play guard. You can make fun of Luke all you want, not playing defense. No one can do that. But anyone can go to Pinehurst for like $400 and play the golf course. And a lot of people have. They play golf, and it's extremely hard. And that putt was really hard. He's not the first, and he won't be the last to have an incredible moment of just the worst moment of his career. It's happened before, and it'll happen again in that sport because of the pace of the sport, right? There's a lot of time between shots. There's a lot of buildup to every shot, especially on Sunday. One reason Bryson DeChambeau has become very sympathetic. He lost his dad a couple years ago, and he talks about it a lot. A lot of people have lost their dad. And it's just, whether you think he's kind of weird, quirky, it's a very relatable trait. The most relatable thing in golf is when you fuck up, have a bad moment, blow a tournament. Most people suck at golf. The average handicap's like 18. Everyone can relate to missing that putt because 99% of people miss it. When Phil Mickelson, I think in 06 at Winged Foot, pumped it out of bounds when he was going to win, that was his best chance ever. He faced the music, and he became a very sympathetic figure because it's a very relatable thing. Now, everyone's like, well, we know what they're going to ask him. Yeah, him saying, this is awful. This sucks. I obviously wanted to make that putt. Maybe even cries. I actually think it would have drawn even more people to him. I think he's a kind of polarizing guy because he went all in on anti-live, and now he's saying we should get together, which he's right. I mean, they need to get back.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think can be full of shit. And
yeah,
that was a moment I think would have really ingratiated himself with everybody. because it's the most relatable thing ever. He missed a 3-footer downhill. Every human being does it
Great
seven
point.
times
Great
around.
point.
And Bryson has really embraced this. Bryson lost the PGA Championship by a shot and wore like, stood up there, took the questions at the Masters. He was winning, I think, after 2 days and then kind of fell apart at the weekend. Bryson's kind of really embraced this whole entertainer thing. You know what he does? And I was thinking about this the other day. It's a very novel concept. He smiles. Think about the funnest player you could argue beside Michael Jordan of my life, just most fun. Steph, what does he do a lot? Smiles. Why did everyone like Brett Favre? Looked like he was having fun. Tiger's unique. He could be an asshole, not talk to everybody. He was a rocket ship of dominance.
Michael Jordan also was not terribly likable. It didn't matter.
Those guys are all-time outliers. Mahomes.
Yeah.
He might end up with like 5 Super Bowls. Looks like he's having a lot of fun. He's an enjoyable.
Yeah.
Bryson's just smiling a lot. Win or lose, he easily could have lost that. And I think Rory kind of, if he could have that back, it would have been a real easy moment to just say what everyone has experienced that plays the sport and is watching. Miss the putt. It sucks. I'm devastated. And he avoided it. Greg Norman talked after 96, which was way worse. He had a 6-shot lead. Rory only had a lead of the back 9 with like 5 holes to go, and Bryson was behind him. So it wasn't like a true 5 holes to go because Bryson had the extra hole. But I think he'd like to have that one back. But it's also golf, right? In the NBA, the Mavs, they lost. It's win or lose. Rory did beat everybody else. And he has been really good these last couple of years. He's beating literally everybody else. But part of golf is like, you got to beat that one last guy or else we all kind of go, not quite.
Yeah, golf kicks everybody's ass at one point. Even Tiger. Tiger had the greatest run ever. It will eventually.
Look at him now. He can barely operate.
Yeah. So it's, the funny part about Tiger, I remember this just as an aside. It's always laughed when Tiger was in his kind of that 8 to 10 year, it was different. I said this today on FS1. This happens infrequently, but occasionally you will see an athlete. Michael qualified it as this. LeBron did in his prime. And Tiger did in golf. That even amongst all stars, John Jones, UFC, does this. Even among the toughest guys in UFC, John is different. John is tougher than all of them. Then take the toughest guys, and John Jones, like, literally just is faster and more violent. And when Tiger was in his prime, one of the things I always, because I love golf, I'll play it. I'm going on vacation. I'll play it 3 or 4 times. I love golf. Bad at it, but just Northeast golf or Northern California. But I hit enough shots that I'm proud of that it brings me back every time.
Have a vodka soda out there, kick your feet up, enjoy it.
Oh, more than one. And you know how they'll do a slow-mo of the golf swing and the analysts will break it down? Tiger was coming out of his shoes. It was, if he wasn't named Tiger Woods, if he was Bob Woods in Topeka, you'd be like, holy crap, this is a mess. He's over swinging. Tiger was the level of the torque in his swing in his prime. He broke rules, but he was Tiger. And it was like, okay, it was different. And I always think about that when I think of greatness Mahomes is doing behind the back stuff, left-handed stuff. The stuff Steph took shots in his prime, you would have been benched for 10 years earlier.
Well, part of golf too is equipment. The equipment over the last, I'd say 12 plus years has gotten so extreme. All these guys can hit it 340 yards. Bryson's hitting it 380. Tiger was hitting it 330, 340 yards with clubs that had no business going over 290 yards. So what he was able to do with his power, his velocity, and as he got a little older, that linebacker strength, it's like if you could play 82 games 10 straight years in the 70s when you were wearing those little shitty shoes and no tape on your ankle, like that is a remarkable accomplishment. What Tiger did with his equipment, like what Bryson's doing with his equipment is impressive, but he's specifically training for it. He specifically made these clubs. Like It is tailor-made to do that. That did not exist in 1997 or 2000. Even up through Tiger's like prime, probably 04, 05, 06. Now, the reason Tiger at 45 could win the Masters in 2019 is equipment. If he had the old equipment, he probably wouldn't have been able to win at that age. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a lot. You hear these stories of Stevie Williams. I'll fall into it on YouTube on the algorithm, and he'll be like, "Yeah, we won the Arnold Palmer, and Tiger had to hit a 25-foot putt to make it." And after we got all the hoopla and he accepted the trophy, he looked at me. He said, "I'm so fucking pissed. I should have been 3 feet, not 20 feet." So we flew right back to Orlando. The next morning at 7 a.m., he's practicing that shot for 3 hours in the dead of summer, sweating. That drive that you hear talk, no one has that. And I do actually think Bryson, if Bryson was a football player, he would have been the number one pick in the draft. This guy, him, Jack, and Tiger are the only guys to win the U.S. Amateur and multiple U.S. Opens. 3 guys: Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Bryson DeChambeau. He also won the national championship in college. And this guy's a blue chipper in the sport of golf. It's different. He's quirky.
Yeah.
But I think we talk about maturity. He's kind of just come into his own. The YouTube stuff, Live allows him to do that. He's having a blast. He's popular, but he's really good. I mean, he's really good. And I feel like he's more likely to win 5 majors when his career's over than stick at the 2. Like he ain't going away.
Yeah. What's his world golf ranking
Well,
right
it
now?
doesn't exist because he only goes to Live.
I don't get it.
Besides Scotty Scheffler and Rory, like there's no difference of those 3 guys. What's the difference?
Right. I don't
get it. He can't go to the Olympics because he doesn't get any points. It's like, what are we doing? I mean, it's crazy.
Golf's a barnyard musical.
It really is.
God, do I love majors. I love majors so much. John, I've never taken a 2-week vacation while I'm on the air. This is the first. My bosses have been incredibly accommodating. And I told both of them, I just said, I'm a little burned out and I just need 2 weeks with my family. And thank God, people at Fox, literally, they came to me and said, take the month off. I'm like, I can't take a month off. I'm not built that way. I got to work. So I'll be infrequent, but I will be posting stuff on the volume. And we will connect soon, buddy.
Keep on rocking. Enjoy the summer.